Imagine a city, but not like any city you've seen. This city, called Xylos, isn't on Earth, it's a giant spaceship, floating in the big, dark space between the stars. But Xylos isn't just a metal box, it's alive, like a giant singing machine. The people who live in Xylos, the Xylosians, are very special. They're not like us. They're made of shiny, see-through stuff, and they move like water, always flowing and changing. Their voices are like music, always soft and smooth. They don't just talk, they sing their thoughts and feelings. Everything in Xylos works with sound. It's like the whole city is a big musical instrument. The air hums with tiny sounds, like a gentle song. These sounds aren't just pretty, they're the power that keeps the city running. Deep inside Xylos, there are special rocks. These rocks make sounds, like a constant hum. This hum is the city's power. It keeps the lights on, the air fresh, and the whole city floating in space. The Xylosians love when everything sounds good together, like a perfect song. They call it harmony. The Xylosians live in a big group of cities, all floating in space. They talk to each other with sound, sharing stories and ideas. They call this big group the melodic convergence. They believe that sound is the most important thing in the universe, and that harmony is the best way to live. Then, one day, humans showed up. We humans are explorers. We like to see what's out there in space. Our spaceships are big and noisy, made of metal and machines. We don't sing, we talk with rough voices. Our machines buzz and click, making a lot of noise. The Xylosians saw our spaceships and were curious. They had never seen anything like them. They thought humans were interesting, but also a little scary. They worried that our noisy machines and rough voices might break their perfect harmony. A human girl named Lyra came to Xylos. Lyra is special. She can hear sounds that no one else can hear, even very quiet sounds. She can hear the tiny sounds that make up the city's song. This makes her different from other humans, and even more different from the Xylosians. Lyra came to Xylos to learn about the Xylosians and their sound city. She wanted to understand how their city worked and how they lived with sound. When she arrived, she was amazed by all the sounds. The city was like a giant orchestra, with thousands of different sounds all playing together. But Lyra also heard some sounds that were wrong. They were tiny sounds, like little off-key notes in a song. Most people wouldn't notice them, but Lyra could hear them clearly. She knew something wasn't right. The Xylosians saw Lyra and were curious about her. They had never met a human who could hear like Lyra. They thought she was strange, but they were also a little afraid. They wondered if her special hearing meant she could see things they couldn't see, things that might be dangerous. A Xylosian named Kale was in charge of fixing the city's sound system. He was very good at his job. He knew every sound in the city and how to make it perfect. Kale was proud of his work, and he thought the Xylosians had the best sound system in the whole universe. Kale thought humans were noisy and messy. He didn't understand why they used machines that made so much noise. He thought their spaceships were ugly and their voices were rough. He believed the Xylosians had everything right, and humans were just making trouble. When Lyra came to Xylos, Kale had to show her around. He had to explain how the city's sound system worked and how the Xylosians lived with sound. He thought Lyra was just a human who didn't understand anything, so he talked to her like she was a child. Kale showed Lyra the special rocks that made the city's power. He explained how they hummed and made energy. He showed her the machines that kept the air fresh and the lights on. He showed her how everything in the city worked with sound. Lyra listened to Kale, but she also listened to the city. She heard the tiny wrong sounds, the little off-key notes in the song. She tried to tell Kale about them, but he didn't listen. He said she didn't know what she was talking about. He said humans couldn't understand the complex sounds of xylos. But even though Kale didn't listen, other Xylosians started to hear the wrong sounds too. The people who fixed the city's sound system heard them, but they thought it was nothing. They thought it was just a little noise, like a cough in a song. But Lyra's being there made them think again. They started to wonder if the wrong sounds were important. They started to wonder if something was wrong with the city. The Xylosians started talking about Lyra. They were worried about her and her special hearing. They wondered if she could hear something they couldn't hear, something that might be dangerous. They started to wonder if the humans were bringing trouble to their city. They started to think they made a mistake by letting humans come to Xylos. They were afraid that the humans' noisy machines and rough voices were breaking their perfect harmony. The city itself started to feel different. The air didn't sound as smooth as before. The power rocks made a strange humming sound, like a low growl. The whole city felt like it was shaking a little bit. Lyra felt that something bad was going to happen. She felt that the wrong sounds were getting louder, and that the city was getting more and more off-key. She knew that if they didn't fix the problem, something terrible would happen. Lyra tried to tell the Xylosians that she didn't mean to make trouble. She tried to explain that different people can help each other, that humans and Xylosians could learn from each other. But the Xylosians were scared. They loved their harmony, and they were afraid that the humans were breaking it. The wrong sound had started, and the city wasn't singing right anymore. The perfect song of Xylos was starting to fall apart, and Lyra knew she had to do something to fix it. She just didn't know how. In Xylos, things were getting worse. The city's nice hum was now shaky. The shiny people, the Xylosians, looked worried. Even the power rocks inside the city were making strange sounds. Lyra, the human girl who can hear special sounds, felt that something was really wrong. The off-key sounds she heard were getting louder. She walked around the city, trying to figure out what was happening. She went to a quiet place where the old, wise aliens lived. These aliens, called silicons, are like crystal rocks. They can hear stories from the past through old sounds. Lyra found an old silicon named Zith. Zith was sitting still, looking at the light. Lyra asked Zith about the strange sounds. Zith said, "You hear old stories, human. A quiet scream is coming from long ago." Lyra asked, "What does that mean?" Zith told a story. Long ago, there were aliens called the Silent Ones. They were very good at making sounds, but they made a bad sound weapon. It was so bad, it made their own planet quiet and empty. They were sorry and left, saying they would never come back. Lyra asked, "If they're gone, why can we hear them?" Zith said, "Sounds don't go away. They stay, like echoes. The Silent One's scream is a warning." Then, the city's sound machines started to break. These machines keep the city's sounds working right. One by one, they went quiet. The Xylosians were scared. They gathered in the middle of the city. Kale, the sound fixer, looked worried. Lyra asked Kale, "What's happening?" Kale said, "The machines are broken. They're going quiet." Lyra asked, "Is it the Silent Ones?" Kale said, "I don't know. They're just a story. This is something else." But Lyra knew the Silent Ones were real. She tried to tell Kale, but he didn't listen. He said the machines were just broken. More machines went quiet. The city was getting very quiet, and it was scary. Lyra saw a pattern. The machines weren't breaking randomly, someone was making them break. She tried to tell the Xylosians, but they were too scared to listen. Lyra said, "They're not broken. They're sending a message. A help message." But nobody listened. They thought their machines were perfect. They didn't think old stories could be true. The city was very quiet now. It was like a ghost city. The Silent One's quiet scream was getting louder, like a warning that something bad was going to happen again. The silence that had descended upon Xylos was a heavy blanket, smothering the once vibrant hum of the city ship. The Xylosians, their crystalline forms now dulled and their movements slow, huddled together, their melodic conversations reduced to hushed whispers. The absence of the monitoring station's steady hum left a gaping void, a chilling reminder of the city's vulnerability. Lyra, her human senses heightened by the oppressive silence, felt a growing sense of urgency. The off-key notes she had been hearing were no longer just whispers, they were a persistent, unsettling dissonance, a hidden melody that seemed to be growing louder with each passing cycle. She knew that the failing monitoring stations were not random malfunctions, they were a deliberate act, a signal being sent, a call for help. She sought out Zith in the Silicon Sanctuary, hoping to find some clarity amidst the chaos. Zitha's crystalline form shimmered with a faint, ethereal glow, their many facets reflecting the dim light like a fractured mirror. They sat motionless, their gaze fixed on the shifting patterns of light and shadow that danced across the sanctuary's walls, their silence a stark contrast to the growing unease that permeated the city. Lyra approached cautiously, her footsteps echoing softly in the stillness. "Elder Zith," she began, her voice a gentle whisper, "the silence is growing. The monitoring stations are failing. I believe the Silent Ones are trying to communicate, but their signal is being misinterpreted." Zith turned their crystalline gaze towards Lyra, their multifaceted eyes reflecting a deep, ancient wisdom. "You perceive the truth, human," they replied, their voice a soft, resonant chime. "The whispers of the past are not mere echoes, they are a call, a plea for understanding." Lyra's heart quickened. "But how can we understand them? Their signal is disrupting the city's harmony." Zitha's crystalline form pulsed with a soft light. The Silent Ones were masters of sonic technology, capable of manipulating sound in ways that even we, the Silicons, could scarcely comprehend. Their signal is not designed to disrupt, it is designed to be hidden, to be heard only by those who are willing to listen. "Hidden?" Lyra asked, her brow furrowed. "But why?" "The Silent Ones were exiled," Zith explained, their voice tinged with sadness. "They were feared, their knowledge deemed too dangerous. Their signal is a testament to their fear, a desperate attempt to reach out without revealing their presence." "But if they're in danger," Lyra persisted, "why don't they just ask for help?" "The Silent Ones carry the weight of their past," Zith replied, their crystalline form shimmering. "They fear that their return will bring only destruction. They believe that their presence is a curse, a harbinger of chaos." Lyra pondered Zitha's words, her mind racing with the implications of their tale. The Silent Ones were not aggressors, they were refugees, fleeing from a threat that had forced them to abandon their home. Their signal was not a weapon, it was a cry for help, a plea for sanctuary. She turned to Kale, who stood at the edge of the central plaza, his gaze fixed on the flickering displays of the monitoring station's control panel. His usually confident demeanor was replaced by a look of confusion and worry. "Kale," Lyra began, her voice firm, "the Silent Ones are not trying to destroy us. They're trying to warn us." Kale turned to her, his brow furrowed. "Warn us? About what?" "About a threat," Lyra replied. "A threat that has forced them to leave their home, a threat that is coming this way." Kale scoffed. "A threat? What threat could possibly threaten the melodic convergence?" "I don't know," Lyra admitted. "But the Silent Ones do. Their signal is a distress call, a plea for help. We need to listen to them, to understand their message." Kale shook his head. "This is madness. The Silent Ones are a myth, a cautionary tale. Our systems are designed to detect any threat. This is just a technical malfunction." "But what if it's not?" Lyra persisted. "What if the Silent Ones are real? What if their signal is being misinterpreted? Kale hesitated, his gaze shifting to the flickering displays of the control panel. He knew that Lyra's words were not without merit. The failing monitoring stations, the growing silence, the unsettling dissonance, these were not normal occurrences. Even if they are real, he argued, how can we understand their signal? It's disrupting our city's harmony. We need to find a way to translate it, Lyra replied. To convert their signal into a harmonic pattern that we can understand. Kale's eyes widened. Translate it? That's impossible. Their technology is far beyond our comprehension. But we have our own technology, Lyra countered. And we have your knowledge of harmonic systems. If we work together, we can find a way. Kale hesitated, his mind grappling with the implications of Lyra's proposal. He had always been skeptical of humans and their technology, but he had to admit that their approach was different. Their ability to adapt and innovate was something the Zylatians lacked. What do you propose? He asked, his voice tinged with a hint of curiosity. We need to build a translator, Lyra explained. A device that can convert the Silent One's hidden signal into a harmonic pattern that we can understand. Kale's brow furrowed. A translator? But how? We don't even know what their signal looks like. We'll have to experiment, Lyra replied. We'll have to combine our knowledge of human technology with your understanding of harmonic systems. We'll have to listen to the city, to the whispers of the past, and find the hidden melody within the dissonance. Kale hesitated, his gaze shifting to the silent monitoring stations, to the huddled forms of the Zylatians, to the growing void in the city's sonic landscape. He knew that Lyra's proposal was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but he also knew that it was their only hope. All right, he said, his voice firm. We'll build a translator. And so, Lyra and Kale began their collaboration, a partnership forged in the face of uncertainty, a union of two disparate cultures united by a common goal, to find the hidden melody within the dissonance, to understand the whispers of the past, and to save Xylos from the encroaching silence. With a shared sense of urgency, Lyra and Kale began their work. They set up a makeshift workshop in one of the quieter, less-used sections of Xylos. The space, once a storage area, was now filled with a strange mix of human tools and Zylatian harmonic equipment. Lyra brought her human technology, small, adaptable computers, sensor devices, and tools for manipulating electromagnetic signals. Kale brought his knowledge of harmonic resonance and the intricate systems of Xylos. He gathered resonating crystals, sonic emitters, and devices for analyzing vibrational patterns. We need to find a way to make their signal sound like something we understand, Lyra explained, pointing to a diagram she'd drawn on a small screen. Like turning a strange language into our own. Kale studied the diagram, his crystalline brow furrowed. But their signal is not like our harmonic patterns. It's chaotic. It seems chaotic, Lyra corrected. But there's a pattern hidden inside. We just need to find it. They started by analyzing the signals coming from the failing monitoring stations. Lyra's human sensors picked up the faint, distorted sounds, while Kale's harmonic analyzers showed the strange vibrational patterns. See? Lyra said, pointing to a series of fluctuating lines on her screen. There's a repeating sequence here, a rhythm. Kale looked closely. Yes, but it's irregular. It shifts and changes. That's because it's hidden, Lyra explained. It's like a code. We need to crack it. They worked for hours, days blurring into nights. Lyra used her computers to sift through the data, looking for repeating patterns and hidden sequences. Kale used his knowledge of harmonic resonance to try and translate the strange vibrations into familiar Zylatian tones. They faced many challenges. Human technology struggled to interact with the Zylatian harmonic systems. The electromagnetic signals often clashed with the resonating crystals, causing unexpected disruptions. This is impossible, Kale said, frustration creeping into his melodic voice. Our systems are not compatible. We have to make them compatible, Lyra insisted. We can't give up. They tried different approaches, experimenting with various combinations of human and Xylotian technology. Lyra modified her sensors, adding resonating crystals to harmonize with the Xylotian systems. Kale adjusted his harmonic analyzers, making them more sensitive to the subtle fluctuations in the Silent One's signal. As they worked together, Lyra and Kale began to develop a grudging respect for each other. Lyra admired Kale's deep understanding of harmonic systems and his meticulous approach to problem-solving. Kale was impressed by Lyra's adaptability and her ability to find solutions in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Your human way of thinking is different, Kale admitted one day. You see things that I miss. And your Xylotian knowledge is amazing, Lyra replied. You understand sound in ways I never imagined. They began to communicate more effectively, bridging the gap between their different cultures and technologies. Lyra learned to understand the nuances of Xylotian harmonic patterns, while Kale learned to appreciate the flexibility of human electromagnetic systems. After many failed attempts, they finally made a breakthrough. Lyra discovered a hidden sequence within the Silent One's signal, a repeating pattern that seemed to be the key to the code. Kale used his harmonic analyzers to translate this sequence into a series of Xylotian tones. I think we have it, Lyra said, her voice filled with excitement. This sequence, it's like a bass melody. We can use it to build the translator. They began to build the prototype. Lyra designed the interface, a small device that could receive the Silent One's signal and convert it into a harmonic pattern. Kale designed the resonating core, a network of crystals that could amplify and refine the translated signal. They worked tirelessly, their collaboration a blend of human ingenuity and Xylotian expertise. They faced setbacks and challenges, but they never gave up. They were driven by a shared sense of purpose, a determination to understand the Silent One's message and save Xylos from the encroaching silence. Finally, the prototype was complete. It was a small, unassuming device, a blend of human circuitry and Xylotian crystals. They set it up in the workshop, connecting it to a sensor that could receive the Silent One's signal. Are you ready? Lyra asked, her voice trembling with anticipation. Kale nodded, his crystalline gaze fixed on the device. Let's see if it works. They activated the device. The sensor picked up the faint, distorted signal from the failing monitoring stations. The translator began to process the signal, converting the strange vibrations into a series of Xylotian tones. At first, nothing happened. Then, a faint, melodic hum filled the workshop. It was a strange, unfamiliar melody, but it was clear and distinct. It was the Silent One's signal, translated into a language the Xylotians could understand. It's working, Lyra whispered, her eyes wide with amazement. We did it. Kale's crystalline form shimmered with a soft light. We did, he echoed, his voice filled with a sense of wonder. They had built the translator, a bridge between two cultures, a key to understanding the whispers of the past. They had found the hidden melody within the dissonance, and now, they were ready to listen to the Silent One's message. With the translator working, Lyra and Kale were finally able to hear the Silent One's message clearly. The melodic hum that filled the workshop wasn't just random sound, it was a carefully crafted signal, a language of tones and rhythms that told a story. They connected the translator to the city's main communication system, broadcasting the Silent One's message throughout Xylos. The Xylotians, who had been living in fear and confusion, were stunned. The strange melody filled the city, a sound unlike anything they had ever heard. What is it saying? A worried Xylotian asked, their crystalline form shimmering with anxiety. Lyra and Kale worked together to interpret the message, using their combined knowledge of human and Xylotian communication. They found that the melody was made up of layers of sound, each layer carrying a different piece of information. "They're talking about a threat," Lyra said, her voice filled with urgency. "A danger that's coming this way." Kale nodded, his crystalline gaze fixed on the translator's display. "They call it the Void Tide. It consumes all sound, all harmony." The message revealed that the Silent Ones were not returning to conquer, they were fleeing. Their home systems had been ravaged by the Void Tide, a cosmic anomaly that devoured all vibrational energy, leaving behind a silent, empty void. They were desperate for sanctuary, seeking refuge within the melodic convergence. "They're refugees," Lyra said, her voice filled with compassion. "They're not trying to hurt us, they're trying to save themselves." The Xylosians listened to the message, their fear slowly turning to understanding. They realized that the Silent Ones were not the monsters they had been led to believe. They were victims, just like them, facing a threat that could destroy everything they held dear. "But how can we fight something that eats sound?" a Xylosian elder asked, their voice trembling. "We don't know yet," Kale admitted. "But we have to find a way." The Void Tide was described as a massive, encroaching wave of silence, a force that moved through space, leaving behind a trail of emptiness. It was not a physical entity, it was a disruption of the fundamental fabric of reality, a tear in the harmony of the universe. "It's like a black hole, but for sound," Lyra explained. "It sucks in all vibrations, leaving nothing behind." The Xylosians were terrified. They had never faced a threat like this, a force that could erase their very existence. Their entire civilization was built on sound, without it, they would cease to be. "We have to warn the melodic convergence," Kale said, his voice filled with determination. "We have to tell them about the Void Tide." They used the city's communication system to broadcast the Silent One's message to the other city ships within the convergence. They explained the nature of the Void Tide and the urgent need for a unified response. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The Xylosians, who had once been wary of the Silent Ones, now embraced them as allies. They understood that they were all facing a common enemy, a threat that could destroy them all. But the Void Tide was approaching quickly. The Silent One's message revealed that it was only a few cycles away from Xylos. They had little time to prepare. "We need to find a way to stop it," Lyra said, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to create a shield, a barrier that can protect us from the silence." Kale nodded. "But how?" "Our harmonic systems are designed to create sound, not to block it." "We'll have to adapt them," Lyra replied. "We'll have to find a way to turn our harmony into a defense." They began to work on a solution, using their combined knowledge of human and Xylosian technology. They knew they had to create something new, something that had never been attempted before. The urgency grew as the failing monitoring stations began to show the Void Tide's encroachment. The silence was spreading, the city's once vibrant hum fading into a chilling quiet. The Xylosians, their faces etched with fear, looked to Lyra and Kale for hope. "We have to hurry," Lyra said, her voice filled with determination. "We have to find a way to save Xylos." The Silent One's distress call had been heard. Now, they had to act, to find a way to defend against the encroaching silence, to protect the harmony of the melodic convergence. With the message from the Silent Ones clear, and the threat of the Void Tide looming, Lyra and Kale knew they had to act fast. They needed to find a way to protect Xylos and the melodic convergence from the encroaching silence. "We need to create a shield," Lyra said, her voice filled with determination. "Something that can block the Void Tide." Kale nodded, his crystalline gaze fixed on the holographic displays showing the Void Tide's approach. "But how?" "Our harmonic systems are designed to create sound, not to stop it." "We need to adapt them," Lyra replied. "We need to turn our harmony into a defense." They gathered the best minds of Xylos, harmonic engineers, silicon elders, and even some of the Silent Ones who had arrived as refugees. They set up a large workshop, a space filled with resonating crystals, sonic emitters, and human technology. The void tide eats sound, Lyra explained to the assembled group. So, we need to create a sound that it can't eat. A sound that pushes back. They began to experiment, trying different combinations of harmonic frequencies and electromagnetic fields. Lyra suggested using human technology to create a field of opposing vibrations, a kind of anti-sound that could counteract the void tide silence. It's like making two waves cancel each other out, she explained. We need to create a wave of harmony that's strong enough to push back the wave of silence. Kale and the Xylosian engineers worked to adapt their resonating crystals, trying to create a pattern of harmonic frequencies that could generate the anti-sound field. The Silicon Elders, with their deep understanding of sonic echoes, helped to predict how the void tide would interact with different frequencies. The Silent Ones, who had first-hand experience with the void tide, provided valuable insights into its behavior. They explained that it wasn't just the absence of sound, it was a disruption of the very fabric of reality, a tear in the harmony of the universe. It's not just about making a loud sound, one of the Silent Ones explained. It's about creating a sound that's stable, that can hold its form against the void tide's disruption. They faced many challenges. The anti-sound field was unstable, prone to fluctuations and disruptions. They needed to find a way to make it consistent and powerful. We need to create a resonance shield, Lyra said, her voice filled with inspiration. A barrier of pure harmony that can withstand the void tide silence. They focused their efforts on creating a network of resonating crystals, each tuned to a specific frequency, creating a complex pattern of harmonic resonance. They used human technology to amplify and stabilize the field, creating a powerful barrier of anti-sound. As they worked, the void tide drew closer. The failing monitoring stations showed the encroaching silence, the once vibrant hum of xylos fading into a chilling quiet. The Xylosians, their faces etched with fear, looked to Lyra and Kale for hope. We have to hurry, Lyra said, her voice filled with urgency. We're running out of time. They worked tirelessly, day and night, their collaboration a blend of human ingenuity and Xylosian expertise. They faced setbacks and challenges, but they never gave up. They were driven by a shared sense of purpose, a determination to protect their home and their civilization. Finally, the resonance shield was complete. It was a shimmering barrier of pure harmonic energy, a wall of anti-sound that pulsed with life. They deployed it around Xylos, creating a protective dome that enveloped the entire city ship. It's ready, Kale said, his voice filled with a mix of relief and anticipation. Now, we wait. The void tide was approaching, a massive wave of silence that threatened to engulf Xylos. The Xylosians, their crystalline forms shimmering with anxiety, watched as the wave of silence drew closer, their hopes and fears resting on the resonance shield. The void tide arrived, a wave of absolute silence crashing against the resonance shield surrounding Xylos. The city ship held its breath, the Xylosians watching with a mix of fear and hope as the shimmering barrier of anti-sound pulsed and shimmered against the encroaching emptiness. The silence was immense, a crushing weight that pressed against the city. The air grew still, the once vibrant hum of Xylos replaced by an eerie quiet. The void tide tried to penetrate the shield, its silent force attempting to disrupt the harmonic resonance that held the barrier together. But the resonance shield held firm. Lyra and Kale, along with the Xylosian engineers and the Silent Ones, monitored the shield's performance, adjusting the frequencies and amplitudes to maintain its stability. They worked in perfect harmony, their collaboration a testament to the power of unity. The shield pulsed with energy, creating a counterwave of harmonic resonance that pushed back against the void tide's silence. The two forces clashed, a battle between sound and silence, harmony and emptiness. For what seemed like an eternity, the battle raged. The void tide pressed against the shield, its silent force relentless. But the resonance shield, powered by the combined strength of human ingenuity and Xylotian harmonic mastery, held its ground. Slowly, the void tide began to recede. The wave of silence, unable to penetrate the resonance shield, began to dissipate, its force weakening as it moved away from Xylos. A collective sigh of relief swept through the city ship. The Xylotians, their crystalline forms shimmering with renewed energy, erupted in melodic cheers. They had faced the void tide and emerged victorious, their harmony protected by the resonance shield. The silent ones, who had witnessed the void tide's destructive power firsthand, were filled with gratitude. They had found sanctuary within the melodic convergence, their distress call answered, their plight understood. Lyra and Kale, their faces etched with exhaustion but their eyes filled with joy, looked at each other with a sense of shared accomplishment. They had built a bridge between two cultures, a testament to the power of collaboration and understanding. "We did it," Lyra said, her voice filled with emotion. "We saved Xylos." Kale nodded, his crystalline form shimmering with a soft light. "We did," he echoed. Together. The silent ones were welcomed into the melodic convergence, their knowledge and experience valued, their presence no longer feared. The Xylotians, who had once been wary of outsiders, now embraced diversity, recognizing the strength that came from different perspectives. The melodic convergence, once a society focused solely on harmony, had learned the importance of adaptability and innovation. They had faced a threat that challenged their fundamental beliefs, and they had emerged stronger, their understanding of the universe expanded. Lyra, the human resonator who had heard the whispers of the past, was hailed as a hero. Her unique abilities, once seen as a threat, were now recognized as a valuable asset. Kale, the harmonic engineer who had once dismissed human technology, now saw the value of collaboration and the power of different perspectives. He had learned that harmony was not about uniformity, but about the integration of diverse voices. The resonance shield, a symbol of their unity, remained in place, a constant reminder of the void tide's threat and the importance of preparedness. The Xylotians and the Silent Ones worked together to refine the shield, ensuring its effectiveness against future threats. The harmonic discord had become a symphony of cooperation, a testament to the power of understanding and the strength that comes from embracing diversity. The melodic convergence was renewed, its harmony stronger than ever, its future secured by the bonds of unity and the lessons learned from the whispers of the past.